Long before the announcement ever hit Instagram, the pressure had been quietly stacking up behind closed doors. Amy Schumer and Chris Fisher moved fast from the beginning, meeting, falling in love, and getting married in a whirlwind that felt romantic but left little room for adjustment. At first, their dynamic seemed grounding. A comedian known for chaos paired, with a chef rooted in routine. But as years passed, the realities of public life began pressing in from every direction. Parenthood changed everything. Welcoming their son brought joy, but it also came with exhaustion, medical challenges, and a level of vulnerability Amy never tried to hide. She spoke openly about health struggles, fertility issues, and the emotional toll of navigating them in the spotlight. What she didn't always say out loud was how those pressures can strain even the strongest partnerships, especially when every move becomes public property. Fame added another layer. Amy's career demands constant visibility, while Chris largely stayed out of the spotlight. That imbalance can quietly reshape a relationship, turning private moments into public narratives whether you want them there or not. Interviews, jokes, and offhand comments suddenly get dissected, clipped and replayed, leaving little space for a couple to simply exist without interpretation. Over time, Amy hinted that marriage wasn't the fairy tale people imagine. She joked about it being work, about love changing shape, about how commitment doesn't always look pretty. Those jokes landed as comedy, but in hindsight, they read more like truth slipping through the cracks. The humor was there, but so was fatigue. And while none of this pointed to a dramatic breaking point, it painted a picture of two people carrying more weight than anyone realized. Because when pressure builds slowly, it doesn't explode, it wears things down. And online, people were starting to sense that something had shifted. The moment Amy's post went live, Hollywood moved fast. Not with statements or interviews, but with something quieter comments. Within minutes, the post filled with familiar names and the tone was unmistakable. This wasn't curiosity. This was recognition. The kind that comes from people who know exactly how heavy a moment like this can be, even when it's wrapped in jokes. Sharon Stone was one of the first to respond, leaving nothing but clapping emojis. No words, no analysis, just acknowledgement. It was subtle, but powerful. Others followed the same route. Olivia Munn, Deborah Messing, Leslie Mann, Linda Evangelista, and more dropped red hearts, choosing simplicity over spectacle. In a world where every word gets dissected, silence paired with support can say more than a paragraph ever could. What stood out wasn't just who commented, but how they did it. No one asked questions. No one hinted at details. There was an unspoken agreement to protect Amy's space while still letting her know she wasn't alone. For longtime Hollywood figures, this kind of response usually means one thing: they've seen this story before, and they understand what's not being said publicly. Celebrity support during a breakup often reads performative, but this didn't. It felt personal, like a private group chat spilling gently into the open. And as fans scrolled through the comments, they weren't looking for gossip anymore. They were watching a network quietly close ranks around one of its own. But among all the hearts and emojis, one message landed differently because it came from someone who had just lived through the same kind of public unraveling. The announcement itself didn't look like a breakup at all. There was no polished statement, no carefully worded press release, no dramatic photos. Instead, Amy Schumer posted a grainy picture of herself and Chris Fisher riding the subway together, paired with a caption that sounded more like stand-up material than a life update. She opened with a dismissive blah blah blah, immediately signaling that she wasn't interested in playing the usual celebrity divorce game. She made it clear the decision wasn't fueled by sudden success, weight loss, or some flashy new chapter. In fact, she went out of her way to shut those theories down before they could even take off. The message was blunt, sarcastic, and almost aggressively casual, as if she were daring the internet to misread the moment. But that tone only made people pause. When someone jokes this hard during a breakup, it usually means the emotions are heavier than they're letting on. Amy emphasized that the split was full of love and respect, stressing that their focus would remain on raising their son together. No anger, no blame, no messy details. Just a clean, controlled narrative delivered with humor as armor. And yet, for many fans, that calmness felt strange. This was the end of a 7-year marriage, not the cancellation of a TV show. The more people reread the caption, the clearer it became that the jokes weren't minimizing the moment, they were managing it. Amy wasn't avoiding the truth. She was choosing how much of it the world was allowed to see, and that choice raised a bigger question. If everything was really amicable and all love, why did she feel the need to explain herself so carefully? And that's where the story actually begins. Sophia Bush's comments stopped people mid-scroll. While others kept it brief, she chose honesty, the kind that only comes from someone who knows exactly what this moment feels like. Earlier this year, Sophia finalized her own divorce, and that context gave her words a weight no emoji could match. She wrote about how hard it is to go through something deeply personal, while the world watches, analyzes, and forms opinions in real time. There was no sugarcoating it, no forced positivity, just a quiet reminder to be gentle with yourself when your private pain becomes public property. Fans immediately latched onto it because it said what Amy hadn't and maybe couldn't. The comment reframed the entire announcement. Suddenly, the humor wasn't just comedy anymore. It looked like protection, a way to soften the blow before the internet could sharpen it. Sophia's words pulled back the curtain, just enough to show how isolating fame can be in moments like this. Even when you're surrounded by millions of people, what made the response resonate wasn't drama, it was recognition. Two women, both navigating heartbreak under a spotlight, acknowledging the emotional cost without turning it into a spectacle. For many viewers, that single comment explained more about Amy's tone than any headline ever could. And just when the moment seemed fully understood, another voice stepped in, one that shifted the focus from pain to something else entirely. Gayle King's response cut straight to the core of who Amy Schumer is. Instead of focusing on the breakup itself, she focused on the delivery. She praised Amy for handling something so painful with humor and love, pointing out that not many people could do that and even fewer would dare to. That observation mattered, because humor isn't just Amy's brand, it's her defense system. When things get uncomfortable, when emotions run too deep, she turns them into something people can laugh at, not to dismiss the pain but to survive it. Gayle's comment quietly acknowledged that truth without spelling it out, and fans immediately picked up on it. Being the funny one comes with an unspoken cost. People expect jokes, even when your life is falling apart, and when you deliver, they assume you're fine. Gayle's words flipped that assumption on its head, reminding everyone that grace doesn't mean ease, and laughter doesn't mean absence of hurt. In that moment, Amy wasn't just a comedian announcing a divorce. She was someone choosing control over chaos, shaping the narrative before it could shape her. Humor became a way to stay upright when everything else felt unstable. But behind the jokes and public support, there was still the question everyone wanted answered: what was actually happening between Amy and Chris when the cameras weren't around? Behind the public jokes and supportive comments, the reality of Amy Schumer and Chris Fisher's split was far simpler than anyone expected. Sources close to the couple told people that there was nothing ugly about the separation. No shouting matches, no secret feuds, just two people quietly finalizing the details of their lives apart, while staying connected. Through love for their son, it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't messy. It was, in their words, cohesive. This perspective changes the way the announcement reads. What looked like humor masking pain was really a controlled, amicable process. They've been married since February 2018, shared a 6-year-old, and had built years of routines and memories together. Ending a marriage doesn't erase that, but it can, apparently, happen without turning into a public spectacle. Sources also made it clear that, despite weeks of online speculation, neither party was acting impulsively. Rumors of tension or distance were just that, speculation. In reality, both Amy and Chris had been committed to navigating their relationship responsibly until it simply reached its natural conclusion. Their focus now, as always, is co-parenting and preserving family ties, even if romantic love has shifted to a new form. The public narrative, filled with jokes, emojis, and supportive comments, only tells part of the story. Behind the scenes, there was quiet respect, ongoing communication, and a deliberate effort to keep the split free from the kind of headlines that destroy reputations or friendships. Even with that, Amy felt the need to address lingering misconceptions in one final post. Even before the divorce announcement, Amy Schumer had already felt the pressure to clarify things publicly. On December 1st, she shared an Instagram post that seemed innocent at first. Glance an update about her health journey, but the words carried a deeper weight. She addressed rumors head-on, stressing that whatever happened, between her and Chris had nothing to do with her weight loss or her son's autism. In other words, she was drawing boundaries, preemptively shutting down speculation that could twist a personal challenge into a public narrative. Her tone was candid but careful, blending honesty with the humor fans expected. "Fingers crossed we make it through. He's the best," she wrote a simple line that revealed both hope and vulnerability. It was a reminder that even in moments of uncertainty, she was trying to protect the truth of her family while managing the court of public opinion. That post also revealed a subtle fear that people would misinterpret, judge, or assign blame where none existed. Amy's humor wasn't just comedy here. It was strategy. By addressing potential misconceptions before they could spread, she maintained control over her story while signaling that the private reality was far more nuanced than headlines would suggest. And in that careful, deliberate way, the post set the stage for the official announcement. It showed that behind every joke and every emoji of support, there was a person navigating real emotions, real fears, and the very human challenge of keeping a family intact amidst public curiosity. It was a reminder that even a comedian, who seems invincible, can feel the weight of scrutiny and still choose to face it with grace, humor, and honesty.